Today we're going to be talking about when you should transfer high schools and some of the mistakes that athletes will make when they make that decision to transfer. So first we're going to talk about when you should transfer, then we're going to talk about when you probably shouldn't transfer, and then some of the mistakes athletes will make kind of jumping the gun when transferring schools or maybe picking the wrong school. So first things first, when you should transfer, I would say that's when you maybe are moving to a school that has a little bit more exposure and you feel that you're maybe not going to be able to have a clear path to the next level at the current high school you're at. So let's say, for example, there are two high schools specifically. One high school is, like kind of smaller division school, not a lot of people, you don't have a tradition of getting athletes to the next level, but you feel you are like, Division I, Division II, like let's say you feel you're a college football player and you could play at the next level, but your school just doesn't get any exposure, your head coach is not well connected, but there's an opportunity for you to play at a bigger school that gets more exposure, and again, at the end of the day, you have to play, you guys. Don't transfer to the bigger school and then play JV when you're on varsity at the smaller school, because college coaches want to see varsity film. But if you can have a situation like that, I think that would probably be a pretty good situation to transfer. Now, other situation to transfer would be if you really don't see a future of yourself playing at a specific school. So like, let's say, you're a quarterback, right? Quarterback's one of those positions where there can only be one of you. And let's say, you're a freshman and then there's like a sophomore ahead of you, a junior ahead of you, and it doesn't look like you're going to play until your senior year. And maybe there's another freshman quarterback that you're competing with and maybe he wins the job and you don't see a future there, you feel like you're not going to get the fairest of shakes, then I think it might be a time to transfer. Now, there are times where that doesn't apply to everybody, especially with positions like receiver, O-line, D-line, where there's multiple spots, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Now, something that all football players need to focus on in the offseason is putting on size. I don't care how big you are, you could always add more muscle mass, and again, like you want to add muscle mass because that helps you remain athletic, and that's very important as a football player. So if you guys would like a great protein powder that you could supplement into your diet, check out that very first link in the description below and use the promo code FIRST25, FIRST25 at checkout to get 25% off. This is a company called AG Labs. It's a company that I own with my brother, where we developed a line of supplements specifically for athletes. It's some of the best tasting protein out there. This is our cinnamon snickerdoodle flavor, but we have 4 other flavors that are great that you guys will absolutely love. So guys, very first link in that description below if you want a protein powder to help you gain weight. Now let's talk about when you shouldn't transfer. So honestly guys, like I briefly mentioned in the first clip, like if you are transferring to a school and there's really not like a clear path or a fair shake of you being able to start at that school, probably shouldn't transfer there, because at the end of the day, like I feel it's possible to get recruited in any situation that you're in. If you're at a small high school, transferring to a bigger high school with more exposure will obviously help you out, but there are still ways that you can get recruited at the smaller school. But if you go to that bigger school and let's say you're a sophomore starting on varsity, but you want to transfer to the bigger school, and then now you're a junior and you're sitting on the bench, you're playing JV, that's probably not a good school for you to transfer to. Yes, it's a bigger school, and yes, there's more exposure, but guys, like you need varsity film, right? So now another situation I would say is if you're a position where I think a lot of athletes, let me start with saying this, run from competition these days. They see how popular the transfer portal is in college space. They see how popular it is to transfer in the high school space. So like anytime that they're faced with a little bit of adversity, they kind of just transfer and run away from that adversity. If you're in a position like offensive line, let's say, or receiver, like there are 4 or 5 opportunities to get on the field. So if you're not like the top 4 wide receiver on your team, I think maybe you need to look in the mirror and say, okay, what can I do to get better? How can I improve my skills and show up the next year and actually compete and try to earn the time rather than just going and running to another school? Because like if you're an outside receiver and maybe you don't start, maybe the 2 outside receivers are seniors and you're a junior or whatever, you could play slot, guys. Like you should be able to do that. Same thing with offensive line. Like at the end of the day, college coaches want to see playmakers. If you're truly an offensive tackle, but there's an opportunity to play at guard, go play at guard. Get on the field, make plays, showcase your skills. It's not always the best option to just transfer and run, because that adversity is a funny way of finding you no matter what situation you're in. Now, let's talk about some mistakes that athletes will make when they do decide to transfer. Number 1, not knowing the coach or communicating with the coach, I should say the head coach of the school that you are going to be transferring to. Because I think a lot of guys just like, oh, I'm going to go into this situation, play there. But if you don't communicate with the coach, maybe send him an email, ask him some questions, maybe ask him about a playbook, like, hey, I'm going to be attending your school, whatever, and you don't have a relationship, it's kind of tough to see if he'll maybe even like be receptive to the fact that you transfer to that school. I'll be honest with you, a lot of athletes that I've worked with have transferred to schools thinking that it's going to be one thing, and then that head coach kind of has like almost a vendetta or something against transfer athletes who maybe think that everything's going to be a cakewalk and given to them just because they transferred in. So like, let's say you were at a big school, you weren't playing, and you transferred to a smaller school. Guys, Nothing is guaranteed. It's not going to be a cakewalk. They could care less about the school that you played at. They care about what you do when you are in the building or in the practice room or the practice field, gym, whatever. They care about what you're going to do there to actually earn a starting job and earn a starting role. So know that it's not going to be a cakewalk. Make sure you communicate with the coaches. Number 2 mistake I would say is people will choose places over people, right? So if you're transferring to a school, or even if you're just trying to pick a school, like let's say you're an 8th grader watching this and you want some information about high school, whatever. Like at the end of the day, places can all be the same. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to choose the school because it has the nice facility, or you don't want to choose the school because it has the nice field, or it's a higher division. Like what situation do you feel the most comfortable in? Like if you feel like you met the coaching staff, you know coaches on the staff, you know players on the team, and you gel really well with them, that's going to make your situation that much better. So make sure that you do that, guys. Don't just choose the flashy place, because I've seen a lot of athletes do that and they end up transferring out of that place because they don't realize what it actually is.